Do you know how our friends in Yorkshire say hello? They go, hey up. Anyway, hey up. So today we're going to talk about a little baby that was locked down in its basket a few years ago. There was a tribe of people called the Israelites. You might have heard of them. Back in them days, they were known as the Hebrews. What had happened was they'd been moved to Egypt, and they were a family that kind of grew and grew and grew. And there was a tribe that came from this one family called the Levites. And they were like God's special people because God said that they wanted those people to be priests for the Hebrews or the Israelites. They wanted them to be able to, minister to the people on God's behalf. So they were very important. So one day, one of these Hebrew women gave birth to a baby boy. Now, unfortunately, back in those days, what had happened was the Pharaoh who ruled Egypt, he was like the king, he'd said, actually, I'm not happy about all these Hebrews doing really well and prospering, so we need to do something to kind of limit them. So what he decided was something a bit evil and a bit wicked. He said, we're going to kill all the Hebrew boys so they can't have any more children. Imagine that. Horrible. Anyway, this woman, the Levite woman, gave birth to a son, and she managed to keep him secret for about 3 months. But she was worried. She was worried that, people were going to find out. The neighbours were talking. She was worried that somebody was going to grass her up actually to the authorities, and she didn't want that. She knew that if that happened, the boy would get killed. So what she did, she made a basket out of papyrus, which is like reeds, big reeds. She wove it all together and then coated it in pitch and tar, so it was waterproof. It's like black sticky stuff. Coated it on the outside with pitch and tar, it's waterproof. And then put the baby in the basket, took it down to the River Nile, which was like the main river in Egypt. It's like 11 times longer than Great Britain or something like that. It's massive anyway, this river. Took it down to the river and put the basket in the river in the hope that somebody would find it. Now, the sister of this boy that was in the basket, she was a bit nosy, like sisters are, and she wanted to see what would happen to Moses in this basket. So, a little while later, Pharaoh's daughter appeared at the side of the river to have a bath. Now, in those days, they didn't have baths in their houses, so they used to just go to the nearest river or wherever it was when, if they were going out or something like that and they needed to get clean, they'd just go down to the local river. Now, we wouldn't do that round our way, especially not. You wouldn't go to River Calder or something like that and dip yourself in there. It'd be freezing cold, and anyway, there's a sewage works up in Burnley pumping raw sewage into it, so it wouldn't be very nice to have a bath in there. But, back in those days, it was hot weather, it was a lot cleaner, and, the river was nice and warm, things like that. By the way, if you do ever get a chance to have a bath in a river, go for it, because it's an amazing experience, something you all must do at some point in your lives. Anyway, back to our story. So, Pharaoh's daughter having a bath, baby in the basket in the river. What do you think happened next? Pharaoh's daughter sees the baby. Oh my goodness, there's a baby in this basket. Look at it. It's beautiful. Okay, so I've got a picture here of another beautiful baby. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, well, maybe not that beautiful, okay, but do you recognise who it is? No? Okay, well, never mind. So she saw this beautiful baby and she said, it must be one of these Hebrew boys. Well, I don't want this. It's so beautiful. I want to bring it up as my own son. But it's still really small and it still needs somebody to look after it. So the baby's sister pops her head out of the reeds and says, I know someone who can look after it for you. Shall I go and get it? Shall I go and get her? So she says, yes, go. So the baby's sister runs back to Mum and says, Mum, Pharaoh's daughter needs somebody to look after the baby that you put in the basket. So Mum runs down to the river, and Pharaoh's daughter says, I want you to look after this baby until it's grown up a little bit, and then bring it to the palace, and I'll bring it up as my own son. So imagine that. And then the Pharaoh's daughter says, and I'll pay you as well. So not only does she get to keep her baby son, she gets paid to bring him up, and then he gets brought up in the palace. Brilliant. What do you think about that, Crow?
Are you talking to me? What does that mean? Who is it? Who's out there? Who is it? What's he saying? What's he saying to you? Is he saying Crowbird? Is he saying hello, Crowbird? Hello, Crowbird? Pharaoh's daughter went down to bathe at the Nile, while her servant girls walked along the river bank. Seeing the basket amongst the reeds, she sent her slave girl to get it. When she opened it, she saw a child, a little boy, crying. And she felt sorry for him and said, This is one of the Hebrew boys. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, Should I go and call a woman from the Hebrews to nurse the boy for you? Go, Pharaoh's daughter told her. So the girl went and called the boy's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Take this child and nurse him for me, and I will pay your wages. So the woman took the boy and nursed him. And when the child grew older, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, because she said, I drew him out of the water.